Hey, it's Eric G. Around the House is sponsored by Baldwin Hardware. For 75 years, Baldwin Hardware has been known for its first-class quality and craftsmanship in door and cabinetry hardware. As an alumnus of the Baldwin Hardware Design Council, I can say I have seen the details and quality from design to the finished product. If you're looking for a new style and old-world craftsmanship, I can tell you there is only one Baldwin Hardware. Check out what would look great in your home at baldwinhardware.com.
It's Around the House.
Hey guys, Eric G from Around the House. We have a great show to give you today. It is going to be my favorite interviews of 2023. The movers, the shakers, the people that had something to say. And we'll be doing a new interview every single segment. So each hour, that's 4 of them. And hey, if you got any questions for us, feel free to give me a call, 833-239-4144. That's 833-239-4144. And you'll end up in a future episode of the show. Now, we have got some great people to talk to, and you'll hear them each and every segment. Now, let's get back to the show. Let's have some fun. It's been a great year.
When it comes to remodeling and renovating your home, there is a lot to know, but we've got you covered. This is Around the House.
Welcome to Around the House Show. This is where we talk about everything about your home every single week. Thanks for joining us today. I've got a buddy on here that we have been talking about this for I don't know how many years. You've seen him out there as Mechanical Hub. He is on like the new Build Network. I don't know. Every time I turn on social media, he's out there. Eric Aune, welcome finally to Around the House, my friend.
Thank you for having me. This is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Man, this is going to be great. This is great. And man, you just own that space out there and the plumbing mechanical. And I just absolutely love that. What's new out there, brother? I mean, you're doing everything.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't know about owning it. I'm just playing and having fun. It's cool to share fun information, but yeah, it's been fun. Started on social media with Mechanical Hub stuff about 10 years ago. And it just seems like finally, it's really paid off. Spending all that time posting those dumb videos or memes and things like that, and just sharing information to whoever wants to pay attention, I guess.
Well, and it's awesome because, I mean, I was down there at Design and Construction Week and I sit down on the media table and I see you there or I see your crew there and I'm like, man, he's got people. How cool is that?
Oh, man, it is actually cool. Thank you. I think so, too. It's so neat to have built things up to a point where, social media can be fun. It can be useful, but it's turned into a business for us because we've just been able to create partnerships all over the country, different industries, to produce content that is hopefully professional and useful enough for an audience that we built up. And yeah, there's kind of a little tiny crew. Like I'd call it that.
Hey, man, help is awesome. I mean, it's amazing. And I know the public out there doesn't see what it takes to put together like your social media content. I mean, you guys are always cranking out videos, but it's just not somebody standing around on the phone and plugging it in. You guys have a good sized production going for even the simple stuff.
Yeah. It takes a lot of time. We're even expanding the crew because, up until now, it's always just been in-house. Like I've edited every video you've ever seen with my face or name on it, things like that. And as we expand and we look at what we can do, how we can share information, everything we produce really is the intended for like the professional side of things.
Sure.
But, we're ignoring an entire audience that, has potential that we could possibly create a space with like DIY and sharing, although there's a lot of crossover on, because of social media.
Sure.
But we're not producing content specifically for like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you're going to do your bathroom. This is how me as a plumber would approach, what I'm going to look at if you have us come out and give you a proposal on the project or something like that.
Yeah. No, totally. But you're right, though. The crossover gets out there so much. And I actually love checking in with you to see what the latest plumbing tools are out there, whether or not I'm going to use them or not. I'm always like, oh, cool. What's Milwaukee came out with? What's Rigid come out with? What's going on? Right.
Isn't it crazy how like literally I just posted a video the other day and it's a It's a full size drain cleaning machine. Like, this is a professional multi-$1,000 cost tool that has been tested for, a couple years now, that's put out into the industry for the professional, and it runs on a battery. Like,
right?
Everything. I joked the other day because I was on a job site and the tile contractor accidentally, he ruined one of his cords that was plugged into his grinder. And I joked to him, I'm like, wait,
What do you have that for?
Your grinder has a tail on it? What in the world is that? Why don't you have a battery powered one? He's like, because I'm never charging my batteries and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, he says, do you have a cord? And I said, honestly, I'm not sure if I do. So I went out to the van and I actually had a cord. It was still wrapped in its cardboard sleeve and zip ties, right from like Home Depot or something. That I bought it like 2 years ago. It was shoved under a box on a shelf, and like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the state of how we exist out on the job sites now. Like, everything we do, if it's powered and it's related to plumbing and HVAC, it's probably cordless.
And what's cool is and people, there's a lot of people out there that are the haters of the battery world out there. I am definitely not one of them. But until you actually see it and test it, you really don't notice that battery puts out more power, because they can actually use the little computers inside to direct the amps to outperform what a plugged-in tool is going to do. And it's amazing how they can do that.
Yeah, they can make the so DC motors in general are smaller. They have more potential energy, and so the stored energy in a DC, battery, like these lithium batteries. Now there's some kind of new technology out there. I don't know anything about it. I don't remember what it's called, but like, there's just so much power available. And like you said, it's all about that electronic side of things, because electronics have been in tools, but mostly they're really just on off. And now they're saying, directing power and utilizing the battery to its fullest potential.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think I saw that new one you came out with. It was that chain auger or whatever that thing was, that drain cleaner that was super cool, that was battery powered. I'm like, how is that big battery? How's that thing running off an M18 Milwaukee battery?
Right. Well, we can thread pipe now. Just today, I got some information and some pictures. I haven't used it myself because it's not available yet. But for HVAC work, which I do as well, like for mini split systems and stuff like that, they now have a battery powered vacuum pump for refrigerants.
Pump it down.
Yeah. And so, like, on a small system, if I'm just going to go out to your place, we're going to put a mini split in your garage, and because you're like, I can't use it for a studio or anything. We can do that job. We can do the whole install, and then I can do, like, none of it's going to require a cord. It seems novel at from the face of it, but a lot of people are interacting already on that post on my Instagram saying, well, that's not going to work for me and stuff. And I think if you just stop and think about every job we do, there's an application for something like this. Like, it doesn't, just because you've done something a certain way for 20 years doesn't mean you've been doing it the right way for 20 years.
Dude,
so
that's my favorite line is, I've been doing it. Let's talk about this for a second. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the haters out there. I've been doing it this way for 30 years. And you just kind of have to, in your head, go, sorry, brother, you've been doing it wrong for 30 years.
I know. Another side of that coin too is, like, a lot of people, like, I look back. So as a plumber, in order to get my license and everything, I had to do an apprenticeship.
Sure.
And I have fond memories of the people that taught me, like, this trade. And I was so lucky to work for people that were so nice and, like, very smart and very skilled. And so looking back, all these, I've been a plumber for 25 years now. So a little while. I look back and I, like I said, fond memories of these guys and stuff. But, like, if I were to learn now today that I was taught something that incorrectly, like, let's just say it was wrong, and or there was just a very much better way of doing it.
Sure.
I would have to look back all the way to the guy who taught me and think, I mean, I thought at the time it was right, but I guess maybe he was wrong. You know what I mean? So, like, I get there's, like, it's like an emotional attachment to, well, I've done it for this way for so long, what's wrong with that? And I think, I don't know, anytime somebody makes my job a little easier or a little safer or just, like, a little faster, but I didn't have to do anything more to achieve that, I think isn't that a good thing?
Right? It should be a good thing. And it's, I mean, I get, like you do, the bigger you get, the more haters you get out there, right? I mean, it just seems like a scale. There's a percentage out there of those people that always like to tear people down, but don't go anywhere. Around the House will be right back.
In a world of ugly faces, should I be allowed to be so hot? So many people.
Welcome to the Around the House show. This is where we talk about everything about your home every single week. Thanks for joining us today. I am still down here in Las Vegas at the Design and Construction Week. This is a combination of the International Builder Show, Kitchen and Bath Industry Show, and even this year, the National Hardware Show. So this is the one place in the world you got to be if you're doing anything around your home. And I'm in one of my favorite booths with one of my absolutely favorite people. I'm sitting here in the Broan NuTone booth where we are going to talk about ventilation today and so much more stuff. Dave, welcome back to Around the House, my friend.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
This is great. Man, you guys, again, are changing the rules of ventilation again.
We are changing the rules of ventilation. Innovations are our game this year. I think it's incredible what we've been able to come up with and just the advances and changes. I mean, we're all talking about it, right?
Yeah.
It's been in the news for years now. And I mean, just the other day, we had another big news splash, and you can be on any side of the fence on that you want to, but holy cow.
Let's
it's
unpack
everywhere.
that one.
All right,
let's unpack it. We're just going to dive in. Let's go. We're just going in knee deep here. The gas range ban, and I'm using air quotes that nobody can see right now, is one of those things that really got me fired up because I'm like, okay, and you probably feel the same way, but I look at it and go, we have a ventilation issue.
Yes.
This is not just a gas range issue.
Correct.
There could be gas ranges that are leaking. There could be anything else. But that is such a small part of the ventilation problem compared to everything else that's coming up in your area.
Yeah, well, 100%. Yeah, I mean, anything you cook on your gas range, on your electric range, you could have a wood burning range. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's something going into the air off of your range. We were talking earlier, you're frying your country fried steak or whatever it is, right? That's emitting oil and smoke and all sorts of other things in the air that you can't see and you're breathing right in. Without that range hood, getting that out, you're going to run into a lot of problems. So we don't care. Use whatever range you like, wherever you're at, keep it, use it, right? We love it.
Think about this. When you walk into grandmother's house and you have that cookie smell.
Oh, yeah.
We all love that. It's awesome, but that's really not healthy. It's kind of like new car smell, right? You go, oh, this is great. These VOCs smell so amazing, and the VOCs coming off the leather, I love it.
Yep.
These aren't really supposed to be good smells for us.
In fact, you should be able to walk into your house and smell absolutely nothing. I don't know if your listeners know who Christoph Irwin is. He's based in Atlanta, and he's got the brilliant guy, and he and I were talking about it, and he said, good smells, bad smells, it doesn't matter. A smell is a sign that there's something in your air that shouldn't be there. So yes, baking cookies, please, I want it, but know that that's not good. You've got little kids, they're breathing these fumes, this is not good. We should get rid of that. Take them outside and smell them.
Yeah,
maybe.
There we go.
I don't know.
That's better.
Okay, sure.
I mean, if they're in front of you, you're smelling them.
I mean,
fine,
you are,
right?
that's
Because
true,
I'm getting ready to consume it.
Absolutely.
But that's the thing, and it's such a misconception out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have legislation issues out there in certain states because my personal belief is that every house should have a working ventilation hood that goes outside the building.
Yes.
And I don't understand that even in my state where if I do a remodel and I pull a building permit, guess what? That has to be a hood that vents outside.
Yep.
I could still go into a home center.
Yep. And buy a recirculating.
They will go, hey, don't worry about that duct. I'm going to give you a recirculating one. And I'm like, a recirculating hood is about as smart as a recirculating toilet. You're not getting anywhere.
I mean, for the most part, I think we'd argue that if you got to have one, maybe you live in an apartment, then that's your best option. Make sure you're changing that filter. Make sure you're treating that right. But then find another way to ventilate the house. Yeah. If you don't have that hood, which you should, it's the right way to do it. A hood that ventilates out. I get it. Sometimes you can't do it. Make sure you have something else. Run your bath fan, right? We don't think about that. Small apartment. Usually a small apartment's not going to have a vented range hood. It's going to have a recirculating, but run your bath fan. That's going to be ventilated out. Code requires that everywhere.
Absolutely.
There's no such such thing basically as a recirculating bath fan, right?
No.
So run it, crack a window if you can. Not the best scenario. You're bringing in whatever's outside, but it's probably better than whatever's coming off your range.
Man.
Probably better.
Absolutely. And bath fans are a great example of that because I use them for ventilation in my house because that's one of my next steps is, and I just created my own fresh air intake problem at my house because I've got a really cool HVAC system, Carry Infinity, awesome.
Yep.
I had my dog door, which was my makeup air, except a little tease for you guys watching the show. My first segment I'm doing on the DIY is I put in a automatic dog door.
Nice.
Which is really cool for the dogs, except I just closed up my makeup air.
You sure did.
So,
ouch.
That's my next issue.
All right, makeup hair.
Makeup hair.
I'd love to talk about that
Yeah.
one. Where do you? And I'm surprising you with this question. Where are you putting it? Where are you putting the makeup air when it comes in? Where are you dumping it?
Right now, I haven't done that yet, so I'm not
Where
sure
are you gonna
yet.
dump it?
Good question.
Okay.
You know, I have my HVAC system, which is a gas furnace electric AC.
Okay.
That is in the garage, but it's really close to the exterior, so I could come in, hook into that system there.
Okay, all
There's
right.
some room to do that.
Okay.
That would be one.
All right.
And there's other places in the house I can hide it.
Yeah, there's a lot. We've had a lot of conversations around that. It seems to be another one of those topics that no one wants to talk about because it's scary. Where you put unconditioned air, which is what you're doing. Where do you dump that in? We're trying to work on that too because that's
a challenge.
That's a big challenge. So I'm always interested to hear about what people are doing with it.
And then my house is even more so because I have a 1200 CFM max hood in there because I have a 48-inch range.
Yeah.
So, that's 1,200 basketballs going out the building.
That's a lot of air.
Where's it coming from, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Luckily, I don't have any other gas burning. I don't have like a gas, a gas water heater or something that I'm pulling in.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not dragging carbon monoxide back in, but I'm still pulling dirty air from the crawl space and attic space or something like that.
What are you doing for fresh air? Do you run an ERV in your house or an
Not
HRV?
yet.
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
Oh, I heard a yet in there.
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
going to be happening.
All right,
So it's
all right.
going to be
I know a
happening. I know. We'll talk about that later.
All right, good.
But let's talk about ERVs for a minute because my biggest problem that I had with them, and one, I hadn't really designed it out yet. It's always one of the things that, okay, that's the next step.
Yep.
But my biggest problem that I didn't like about them is I'm in wildfire country.
Yeah.
And in August, September, there could be a week or two
Sure.
where we're the worst air quality in the world.
Sure.
And I didn't want to have something that I was going to have to manage on my own and go, did I turn that off today?
Yeah. No, I totally get it.
And then me turning it back on again is going to be the worst part because I'm going to forget about it.
Right. Or if you're not home to do it with your wife, you're relying on somebody else at the house to handle it.
Yeah.
So we're taking a look at that in a really big way, a really unique way. And in fact, maybe I can announce this now.
Sure.
We won today at iBiz. We won the best indoor product at the entire show for our Overture system, which manages this problem. So let's jump into that. All right. Okay. So Overture is a system of, it's an automated indoor air quality system. And it's a bunch of switches and sensors that go around your house. All the switches have sensors in them. You have sensors you can put in all over your house. You can hardwire them. You can plug them in. So we can measure air. And we all know about that now. We've all seen molecules and awares and air things, and we've all heard them. They're probably here, and they make cool products that tell you what's going on. Yeah. And then they tell you, okay, great, go open your window. But you just told me your problem was there's a forest fire outside.
Yeah.
I'm not opening my window. Right?
Of course not.
So what's your solution for that? So what we've done is we've designed the system to work with our fresh air systems to say, wait, there's bad indoor air quality outside. We look at the EPA's AQI score, the air quality index, and if it says this is no bueno, you should not be breathing this, the system will say, nope, we're going to go into recirc mode, going to shut down the fresh air supply. We're okay for a little while here. There's enough air in the home. We're not going to suffocate overnight.
Yep.
Like, we got some time. The system will run, and it'll still exhaust things as it needs to, and then it'll bring that fresh air in when the air quality is better.
Yeah, because I'll pull up on my phone, and I'm like, oh, that's bright red. That's not a good day today. You know what I mean? And that's where I was like, I'm just not that consistent to trust myself to go, okay, I'm going to have to manually manage this.
Well, and we're not smart enough. Let's be real. Like, I am, because I work at a company that does indoor air quality. The average consumer, the average homeowner out there doesn't know. My wife doesn't know when to turn on the bath fan half the time, or the range hood. Always. Let me be clear. Always. Every time you're in there, turn it on, leave it run for 20 minutes when you're done cooking or in the shower, whatever it is.
Around the House will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Let's sound that fan that keeps us breathing.
Welcome to the Around the House show. This is where we help you get the most out of your home through information and education. Thanks for joining us today. By the way, this episode is brought to you by Root Quencher and rootquencher.com. If you've got trees, shrubs, bushes, and you're wasting water when you're watering them or you want to cut it back, check out rootquencher.com. Those guys have spikes that put water right into the roots and not all over the top where it runs down the hill and doesn't end up where you want it to. If you want to save money, go to rootquencher.com. Today, we are going to talk about something that is this massive tidal wave that only a handful of people are talking about. And we've got Andrew Brown here from Toolfetch, but we're talking the trades today. Brother, thanks for coming on Around the House today.
Eric, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Man, this is such a big deal, and I don't think we can talk about it enough because I tell you what, I can't tell you how many times I'm seeing in schools, in high schools specifically right now, they've taken all the trades, they've removed them completely out of so many programs. Kids get forced to go to college because it's the right thing to do. And after spending $100,000 in a college education, they get out and say, hey, I'm going to go join the electrical union or I'm going to go drive the mason union. And they get into the trades and now they got a $100,000 bill that they really didn't need to have. Yeah. It's crazy. What's your take on this?
I mean, it's happening all over, and you understand why there is this skilled trades gap, right? There's 40% of men and women retiring or at the retirement age in the next 5 or 10 years that are leaving the industry, leaving their trade. And there's a lot of people who are not coming in. There's not enough. So there's 7 to 8 tradespeople leaving. There's 1 or 2 maybe coming in. And it's really what's being pushed to the younger individuals. What's the message that's being pushed? And it's interesting when the younger generation, when they're sitting down before they sign on that dotted line for college, is there a guidance counselor saying, there's another opportunity. There's maybe a skilled trades path. And I don't feel that's being spoken about because I do feel that teachers and guidance counselors are the best marketers for college, right? Mm-hmm. And if kids have the right information, maybe they'll consider a skilled trades path instead of spending $100,000, not every school, but around $100,000, go to, trade school and spend less amount of money and for a less amount of time. And you could be working in an apprenticeship and making money at the same time.
It is incredible. And I call it the big business of the college education. And the best salespeople right now seem to be the high school teachers and guidance counselors these days. And I think they're doing such a disservice. And in another show a couple of years ago, I brought up the concept that I've been waving the flag for a while, is that, if you and I go down and get a car loan and you and I walk down or get a house loan and get a mortgage, we have to kind of prove a business plan of how we're going to pay that back, right? So I would love to see that happen with a college education where, okay, I'm applying to go to college. And I wish they would ask a couple questions and say, all right, when you get out, what's the game plan for your career? Because there's so many people going out and getting and I'm not going to go after a certain group here, but what I call generally junk degrees, because I see them working at Starbucks and other places after they've spent this stuff. I wish they could actually sit there and say, hey, what's the game plan to pay this back? And maybe start a discussion of maybe this isn't for me and maybe I should get into the trades where I can actually be much better off and live a more comfortable lifestyle outside of my work environment.
Yeah, and I can attest to this because I went to college for 4 years and I was more confused when I came out of school than when I was in school. I started off as a programmer. I was doing C++ on the weekends and looking at myself and looking at the people around me and saying, what am I doing? Why am I taking advanced calculus? Yeah. Then I went into business. Then I might into finance. Then I went into IT. And then I had this life-changing event on 9/11, which put me in a different path for selling tools to the skilled trades. And it's just, I feel like sometimes you just don't get all the answers and you're just kind of going from major to major. And there are a lot of individuals, especially friends, who came out of school and not happy with what they're doing. They're just not happy. Or they switch completely and they do something completely different. But you've already put in a tremendous amount of investment into your education, but you go into something different. And I see that happening often.
It is. It is. It's crazy. And I think we've got to really start with younger kids of getting them in school, using their hands on stuff and teaching some common sense stuff, because, those woodshop days really figured out if you were good at working your hands and if there was a passion there. Because I know so many people in doing what you and I do that I go back and, I'm in my early 50s, but I go back and say, when did you figure out, it was woodshop? Because I loved what I was doing. I was creating something. Or it was the mechanic shop or whatever, metal shop, welding, whatever that was back in, in that middle school / high school age, that we've just yanked that out of the schools and made those things, computer labs or whatever else. But all those things are needed, but we've just created this huge skills gap, which is now hurting the public moving forward. I mean, it's great if you're going to go into the trades because, as you know, as an electrician, you can go out and make six figures and work anywhere in the country. But Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner that have to hire the electrician go, wow, why is that so expensive?
Where are all the shop classes? Where did they go? What happened? Right?
Yeah.
I don't remember taking a shop class. Right? I'm not too far behind you, but I don't remember taking a shop class. And if a kid has a mechanical ability or a technical spark, maybe that gets defined in a shop class that they wouldn't have noticed unless they took the shop class. But the shop class is not there. Maybe they just go to college and they do something else. So I'm all for bringing shop classes back into schools. On top of, if you don't go into a skilled trade, you can use those skills. They're lifelong skills, which you can apply to stuff around your house. Because I know people that won't touch anything, right? They're not. I'm not touching anything. Look, there's something to be said about something electrical, and you just don't really know, and then you bring in an electrician. But there's such opportunities in the skilled trades in all these different areas. And if you apply yourself and you ride that ladder of success by attaching yourself to people who have been there and done that through mentorship, I mean, it's just unbelievable what's available today in this window of time.
And you'll never be without work, right? You'll never be without work, because I tell you what, with our massive skills gap, that there is no quick fix to this. It's going to be a generational fix, right? I mean, we can't fix this tomorrow. You know what I mean? Because we just have so many people that we don't have the programs even out there available to fix it, let alone the people to fill those programs. And if you're a kid right now and you're, let's say if you're a parent listening to this show right now or a grandparent, this is something that should be explored, because I tell you what, you can go out and be an electrician, and in a few years, you're making more than the school teachers are.
With less debt.
With a lot less debt.
With a lot less debt. With a lot less debt. And it's a shorter period of time, right? So you spend 4 years, maybe 5 years in college. You're ahead of the game with less debt, and not just in value. And then, I always say, eventually, maybe you buy a home, you get a mortgage, that's more debt, and more debt, and more debt. And it's just, you just can't get out of it. So it's a great opportunity for someone who really wants to be and go that path.
Andrew, there are some great groups out there as well. There are some small programs out there, like we have here in my Portland metro area where I'm at. We have a group out in Forest Grove where they teach building houses to kids. And I mean, every school year they frame a house, and then the next school year they finish it, sell it to refund the program again. And they call it the Viking house because it's the Vikings. That's the school mascot. But every couple of years, they're building a home. That is a beautiful model. We have a forestry program down here that is in a little town called Sweet Home out here, which is just the base of the Cascade Mountains, where they've had a guy that's been doing YouTube videos, Manly Jobs, Blake Manley, who just left that school district. But there's like 100 kids in this little town on this forestry program. And
Around the House will be right back with my favorite episodes of 2023. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to the Around the House Show. This is where I help you get the most out of your home through information and education. Thanks for joining us today. We got a special guest here on the line. We're doing it old school today, which I love doing this. This is fun. Craig, welcome to Around the House.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. We are having a great summer here, at least in my part of the country. And of course, the radio show goes across the U.S. and the podcast is international. But you have changed lawn care, and I love this.
Thank you. Yeah. Wow, that's that's some lofty words. I don't know. I don't know how much I've changed it per se, but it's definitely a different way to go about tending to your lawn for your average homeowner. And for a long time, lawn care has been largely the same. For the last 40 years, you've kind of had the same options, and now it's kind of growing and evolving into something new, which is really interesting.
Well, what I love about your system is, and the first thing, when I first looked at it, I'm like, all right, cool. It's a lawn care program for people to take care of the lawns. That's big. And then I went, okay, they're doing the one thing. You guys are doing the one thing that's always been a pet peeve of mine is you have soil testing in the mix, which to me is like the basis of everything, right?
Oh, completely. Yeah. So all of our customers that sign up, the first thing we do is we give them a soil test, because that was one of the things. You're right. That was kind of the big problem. Was you go to this big box store and you just stare at a rack of fertilizers and you really have no idea, what you're doing there and what to get and what not to get. And really, it all starts with knowing, what nutrients are deficient in your soil. So we start with that. It's standard with every box. First and foremost, we get your plan. We'll customize, your plan for you, and then we'll send you that product mix going forward that's going to make up for those deficiencies and kind of help your lawn thrive.
Yeah, and that way, it's interesting. You could be living out in a more desert community and have a sandy soil. You could be living in the forest and have this super acidic soil, and you don't know until that test comes back what your problems are.
Oh, completely. Yeah. And they're all over the map, right? And depending on where you live, there's certain types of soil, like you said, but even within, you could have a totally different soil structure than your neighbor, right? And just because of, years of kind of tending to your lawn, differently. So it really is all important, and you can't cover it with a big blanket and say, well, because you're, in the north, we're going to give you this kind of program. You have to really dial it into exactly to every lawn.
Well, that's what I like you've done with Lawnbright, because I think it's just really smart to give somebody, okay, a basis. I need to do this so my lawn is healthier. And we waste so much of running down to that home improvement store. You see the pallets sitting out there of fertilizer, and people just walk up, because I've done the same thing over the years, walk up and go, I think I'm watering my lawn enough. I have no idea what's going on. That bag looks cool and it's on sale. Great. And then throw in their lawn expecting a miracle.
Exactly. Right. Or, it's summer, so I'm going to buy the summer blend, or it's fall, so I'm going to get the fall stuff. But it really just totally doesn't work that way. And what we find is that most people do get it wrong, right? You really do have to, put in the time and effort to learn about this stuff in advance. And then, it's not exactly a science. It's not an art. It's kind of a craft, right? And if you can do it properly, it takes years, and you'll get there eventually. But a lot of people just don't have the time to invest in making sure they do it right. So, all our products are, all organic and natural. So there's nothing really, you don't have to worry about any harsh chemicals going into your lawn. And that was another piece of it as well, is that we did find that a lot of this, especially new homeowners coming into the market, really cared about what was going on their lawn. And they didn't want any of that stuff that had been on there previously in the traditional sort of fertilizer market.
And that's great, because, there's so many issues out there with kids and pets and everything else in the lawn. Why not put something in there that's at least organic, so at least you know what's going into the lawn? Exactly, yeah. So all of our ingredients are all sourced sustainably. They're all things you can pronounce, right? They're all, kelp and molasses and cedar oil. And they're all things that are actually beneficial to the microbiome in your lawn, which is some things that traditional fertilizers don't take into account at all. Like, you can go buy a bag of
fertilizer from Home Depot, it's going to make your lawn look great, but it's not going to actually feed your soil. And over time, you're going to need more input. So you're going to need more fertilizer and more water just to get the same results, because the microbiome is actually dying off. But what we're doing is we're taking a soil first approach, and we're making sure that all of that stuff stays in there and actually thrives. So over time, it's kind of like the opposite. So over time, you'll get a much better result off of the Lawnbright program.
Yeah, and a healthier lawn like that uses less water in the long run, correct?
Oh, completely, yeah. So I was actually just listening to your, how to save water. Getting a rain sensor on your irrigation is tops on the list, but also it's the inputs that you put into your lawn, right? And how you can kind of adjust that over time, and making sure that you're putting something into your lawn that's not going to require you to, go out and buy more fertilizer or add more water to it continuously.
Yeah, and that's great. And by the way, what happened to off-the-shelf fertilizer prices? I did a segment for my TV show, and I ran down to the home improvement store just to get a few small bags. And I'm talking like the little tiny stuff if I had like a little condo lawn or something out front. Mm-hmm. And I walked out of there with like 3 tiny bags for $70, and I'm like, what happened to fertilizer pricing? Because it's like 5 times at my stores here what it was 3 years ago.
Oh, completely, yeah. And it was actually, again, like all things, right? It was kind of the pandemic that had the effect. Synthetic nitrogen, it used to be really, really cheap. And now if you go buy a bag, right, 30% or more of that bag is going to be synthetic nitrogen. But the price in the last couple of years has gone through the roof. That's a huge problem. So that obviously that drives up the price of, fertilizers across the board. Now the nice thing about us is we're not as price sensitive to that. We actually use some of the lowest content of nitrogen in any fertilizer plan that I've seen out there. So we are sort of much less exposed to that pricing change.
Well, and that's kind of the I don't know, I don't want to call it the secret or the perceived advantage of the off the store shelf fertilizers, because it seems that those things are maybe not healthy for your lawn, but they make you feel good because they just dump a bunch of spot nitrogen on there that's going to be in there for 3 or 4 weeks. Your lawn gets nice, green, and thick because you've just overfed it seems. And then you're like, hey, wait a minute, I got to put more on it again.
Oh, yeah, completely. So you're going to be feeding it a lot more often, and you're also going to need to feed it at the wrong time. So, part of the system that we have is letting you know exactly when to put on exactly which products. Because if you get that wrong, and if you put on a high dose of nitrogen right now in the summer, it's really muggy where I am in Massachusetts. You are going to have significant problems, right? Telling the lawn to grow that does not want to grow. So it's going to be more susceptible to fungus and more susceptible to disease, and you're actually going to cause more problems than you intended.
And and that makes, again, then you're tossing. Naturally, what you do is you go, oh, it needs more water, it needs more fertilizer, and you just keep making it worse and worse as you're kind of chasing your tail, if I understand that correctly.
Oh, completely, yeah. So you're going to, again, and then you're going to stop and say, you know what, I'm going to call one of the national lawn companies in there, and they're going to do largely the same thing. They have the knowledge and they understand what's going on in your lawn, but the inputs are going to be the same, and you're going to be spending a whole lot more now, right, to try to do something that you tried to do yourself. So we're trying to actually take DIY lawn care and take kind of the guesswork out of it and say, we got the hard parts, right? We can give you the right stuff to put on your lawn, and we can inform you and instruct you on when it is to put it on. And then you don't have to people are spending $1,500, thousands of dollars on their lawns every year going to these companies. And by the way, good luck trying to cancel one, because they, I've heard horror stories where they just come out anyway.
It's like trying to cancel the gym membership, right?
You have to tell them you moved to a different country to actually get them to cancel.
Well, so I'll tell you this. I saw this probably 4 or 5 years ago. I watched my neighbor across the street from me at my previous house. And they had one of the, we'll call it a green lawn care company, come over there. And I'm not talking about the like organic green, but just one of those green companies out there. Knocked on the door, came in, talked to them a little bit. signed up for the care service. The guy runs out, grabs the truck hose, and then just starts spraying. And I'm like, you didn't even look at the soil.
Right.
Don't go anywhere. Around the House will be right back with my favorite episodes of 2023 after these important messages. Hey, it's Eric G. from Around the House. Are you planning a decking or siding project this year? If you are, you've got to check out my friends at Millboard. Millboard is a completely different kind of composite decking and cladding that enhances outdoor spaces with enduring distinction. Hand-molded from the finest oak, it realistically mimics the natural grain and color of premium hardwood. If you're looking for something that doesn't look like plastic and instead real wood, check out millboard.com. Make sure and check out that interview we did just a few weeks back. That's millboard.com.